Have you ever had a feeling that a family member was gonna pass? Kind of like a sixth sense? Well, this lady did. Hello, my spooky friends. Grab a cup of tea, a warm blanket, and let's talk all things haunted. I used to master a registry in an ER in LA. It wasn't my own full-time ER, but they asked for me a lot, so I got to know the nurses very well. One night, I was talking ghosts with an EMT I had befriended. He told me that one very slow, rare night in this ER, he was puttering around in the back section, killing time stuff. He was startled by a woman that was wandering around looking lost. She was Hispanic and around 50 to 60 years old. She looked beat up and her hospital gown was covered in blood. He was concerned that she was up when she looked so bad. He asked her what room she was in and did she need help. She looked at him confused and wandered into trauma room 5. A little bit later, he was chatting up the charge nurse, and he asked her how was the trauma patient able to ambulate so well. The charge nurse said, "What trauma patient?" The nurse said, "We had a trauma yesterday, but none today." He told her the event and described her to the nurse. The nurse went pale and flat-faced, and she said, "Oh my goodness. That was Mrs. So-and-so from yesterday. She had been in a bad car crash, and she died shortly after being brought in." The nurse looked at the logbook, and sure enough, the woman had been coded in room 5. They both went to the room, and it was clean and empty. So, I wonder, was this just like what they say, a kind of like an imprint of what had happened because there was so much trauma? Or was she just kind of lost, like looking for the door? I don't know. Do y'all know? Is there a door? I don't know. I've never died. So, yeah, what is she looking for? That is a little bit unsettling. I mean, I get lost enough in this lifetime. I don't want to get lost, trying to get to the next. I once had an elderly dementia patient that was on our unit for pneumonia, and she ended up passing away on my shift. Just a few days prior, the patient told the staff that she saw a woman in white come into her room and told her that she would die in 3 days. Within 10 minutes of her passing away, the daughter called from out of state asking for an update on her mom. This was in the middle of the night. Anyone else have a strong feeling to check on someone or think about someone the moment they are passing away? Has that ever happened to you? So here's what somebody said in reference to that first story. "I felt my mom pass. All day I knew something was going to go wrong. Our truck broke down in the middle of the mountains. We lost brakes, an axle, and a 2-inch root saved us from going over the cliff." Oh my goodness. I checked the time, 6:47 p.m. By the time we got down the mountain, got home, it was way past midnight. I thought that's what the bad feeling was for. My brother called a half hour later and said Mom had a massive heart attack. When I got to the hospital, the time of her first heart attack was 6:47 p.m. She never recovered. Wow, does that mean like she left and was, helping you not to go over the mountain? That's kind of the way I take it. Is that the way that y'all take that? Yeah, that's pretty freaky, but cool. Like maybe we become a superwoman, in our next life. I hope so. It would be about time for me. Okay. I currently work in long-term care and hate the night shift. Same. I have always been sensitive to being able to feel spirits, and it's always freaked me out. I've been told many stories about the facility and experienced certain small things on my own. I avoid the dining room at night because I get a suffocating feeling there, and certain residents walking at night and questioning me about the man standing in the door staring at them. But the other night was by far the weirdest. Usually at around 4 a.m., I take my break and usually sit on the front lounge by the nurse's station and close my eyes for a half hour. There is only one nurse on with a couple of nurses' aides at night, so when I'm there, I don't like to leave the floor in case I'm needed. The other morning, just as my break was ending and I was sitting in the chair, rubbing my eyes, when I suddenly heard someone calling out, "Help me, please, somebody help me." It was distant and sounded like it was coming from the end of a hallway, but they just kept yelling it over and over again. I started running from hallway to hallway, trying to find who was calling out. The girls I was working with were running with me, but were confused and asking me what was wrong because they couldn't hear it. I just kept telling them that someone was yelling for help and we needed to help them. Every time I thought I figured out which hallway it was coming from, as I would enter that hallway, it would switch to sounding like it was coming from a different hall. As we started checking rooms, every resident was sound asleep, and the calling out stopped. I still don't know who was calling. That is a little freaky and kind of embarrassing, like you have people running with you. Yeah. Never mind, I'm just having a hallucination. I don't know. How do you get out of that one? All right, next one. I had an experience a few nights ago when I was working at an assisted living facility. I was sitting and all of a sudden I heard a door open and close, then whistling. I get up and look to tell them not to do that this late because we have one resident who is a very light sleeper and will come out if anything is too loud. So I don't see anything, so I go back and I hear it again. This time I go down the hall to see an elderly man sitting in the chair next to the elevator. As I go to ask him if he wanted some company because he couldn't sleep, another resident opens the door and I turn to look at them and turn back and he was gone. Okay. Yeah, that would really freak me out, especially when you saw him there and talked to him. Yeah. I think it's time for an exorcism. I'm just saying. Would that scare you? Okay, let me go to some ones that I have saved on my phone. Kind of a similar situation. I had the ghost of a patient who had died just minutes before walked past me looking into the semi-private room where she had been before she was moved when her family made her comfort care. I told the spirit that she was dead and her body was in the morgue, and the ghost vanished. Wow. If you knew someone had just died, would you have the presence of mind to say, hey dear, you're dead. Your body's in the morgue. Go on. Go to the light. I mean, I don't know. Like, are there rules about this? I mean, what can we say? What is proper protocol and etiquette? Somebody needs to tell me this, because I am going to mess it up. All right, here's another one. Anyone have the Dark Man, Shadow Man, Man in Black, or Man with the Hat visit residents and patients? Usually appears before people start dying. Have several stories from dementia, and with it, people all seeing this figure. Someone replied, a tall man with a hat means someone's dying for sure. Had this a lot. Yeah, I've got a whole Man in the Hat story, but it's really kind of different. Comment below if you want to hear that. I will probably tell it. It was one of the weirdest things that have happened to me in a long-term care facility. Okay, so that's what I have for today. Remember to submit your ghost stories either at my email address or on here, and I will read them out next time. In the meantime, somebody figure out for me what is the protocol for ghosts. I really need to know this. And remember to stay spooky.